businesses that have had different needs, but real private sector timelines and budgetary constraints. And I think that that's very important and applicable. Number one, I would go on to say, we have seen that career politicians inevitably are drawn into the moray of lobbying money and special interest influence money, and that ultimately makes their cuts very suspect. And we'll talk a little bit more about that this evening as the conversation goes on.
Next question goes to Mr. Pantano. Gas prices. We all are aware, particularly the people who drove up here tonight, what we're confronted with is we have to make a choice between going somewhere and eating. What the price of gas has done to our economy, and we're going to have to think back to what happened in 2008 when they broke the banks and gas got to $4. The question has to do with what effect does the speculation on Wall Street have to do with gas prices. We hear that it's a problem of speculation. We hear it's a problem of production, yet the American people are left in the middle. Now, how do we solve that? How do we get to the bottom of that issue?
The chief culprit behind high energy prices today is the concerted effort by the Fed to do quantitative easing, which has resulted in a weak dollar, which has left commodity prices higher at a cost of living index than they have been for some time. Couple that with the fact that we have 1.3 billion people in China, where now China is the world's largest automobile market in the world. Couple that with some increased risk in the Middle East. You might be familiar with the fact that the Iranians have threatened Israel with extinction and are in the process of developing a nuclear weapon. As a result, they've threatened to close the Straits of Hormuz, and that has led to speculation and to risk. Is Wall Street the culprit? Wall Street plays a role in every economic situation, good and bad, that's happened in Main Street America. Having said that, speculators are a convenient red herring that the Obama administration likes to point to, and frankly, every administration likes to point to them. But speculators include airlines, they include UPS and Federal Express, they include counties that have to manage fuel budgets by trying to consider what their needs are going to be in the future. So I think that that's a little bit too simplistic. The way we would solve our energy problems, though, friend, that's the important part. Not just talking about the problem, but talking about the solution. Here in North Carolina, we have natural gas resources in the Piedmont and off the coast. We need to be developing those. For years, the governor did not properly allocate resources to the Outer Continental Shelf Policy Committee. Why does that matter? Because the state of North Carolina has more economic activity area off the coast than almost any other state on the eastern seaboard, and yet we've been blind to developing those resources. If we were to tap this state's potential, hear me, we could drop our corporate tax rate, we could drop our individual income tax rate and our gas tax, and we would have not only people coming to buy our products, but people relocating their businesses here and new factories here as well. Thank you.
Senator Rouzer.
The way to solve this problem is take the liberal bureaucracy's head on in Washington, just like I've done in Raleigh. If you want to reform the government, you got to take their money. Our government is so wound around the axle by the environmentalists and others that we give more priority to a rat, mouse, or any other creature that you can think of than we do to our national security and certainly towards human dignity. We need to be drilling, and we can do so very environmentally sensitively in every part of this country that we have available to us. In Anwar, they want us to drill in Alaska, but we can't. We need to be tapping into all the natural gas off the coast of North Carolina and here in the state of North Carolina. If the rest of the world thought that we were really serious about tapping into every natural resource that we have in this country, the price of fuel would drop dramatically tomorrow.
Thank you. I believe the Cheney's Energy Task Force has a whole lot to do with what we're dealing with now. I think it's a double-edged sword. They've got our production up right now. We're almost at 10 million barrels a day. We're expected to get 3 more million barrels a day. We're using 18.8 million barrels a day. We're almost solvent in that. But you all say, well, let's drill. Well, you're getting $2 an MCF right now. If there's 6 MCF in a barrel of oil, that's $12. Our gasoline, if we had the free market in oil like we do in natural gas, it would be $12 a barrel. We'd be paying about $1 at the pump. I do not think that we ought, with this horrible price of natural gas, I do not think that we ought to be drilling offshore right now. But you've got to realize that Cheney was behind what is going on right now, and when we go to Libya and this place and that, and take that oil off the market, they know exactly what they do because they want to make a fortune on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Crowe, what is your opinion of the Ryan budget plan, and would you support it?
I have to get another subject. I haven't studied his. I've looked at it a little bit, but I am, you know, basically ignorant on that, and I don't want to get into it at all. I am, you know, a little suspect of these things that are supposed to solve problems that I don't really see as a means of solving problems, because I don't think that they're really attacking what the real problem is, which I consider is money in politics and also the Federal Reserve. So until they get into that, I really haven't paid any attention to try to analyze it. I'll let somebody else that has talk about it.
Senator Rouzer.
Thank you very much. I'm a great admirer of Paul Ryan. He stepped forward and he's providing solutions, and that's what we've got to have in this country. And yes, I support Paul Ryan's proposal and do so wholeheartedly. Now, we've got to do a number of things in this country, and he works towards that with his budget. You know, we've got to cut spending. We've got to reform our entitlement programs so that we can preserve them for the future. And I'll go back and say that we've got to also grow our economy. You know, we have a $16 trillion debt. The only way we're going to get our hands around it is to do 2 things: grow the economy and at the same time cut spending. And again, I'll reiterate, I'm the only candidate in this race, and one of the few probably running in the country that has actually proven they can fight the political battles and the legislative battles and cut spending.
Once again, I salute my opponents 20 years in Washington, but I think that in the last 10, I probably spent more time in North Carolina, Senator, than you have. But the bottom line is, the Paul Ryan budget is something that I've been talking about since 2010, when I ran for Congress the first time against our entrenched Democratic opponent, Mike McIntyre. And the Democrats spent $2.5 million attacking me because I took a position on this thing called entitlement reform and on what we needed to do to lower taxes and to have a more competitive private sector than we do today. The reason that I support the Ryan budget plan, and we've talked some of the highlights a moment ago, but I have to tell you something. This is a case study in what leadership looks like. The senator and I have been running against each other now for almost 9 months, and this is the first time that he's publicly taken a statement in support of the Paul Ryan budget, because it is controversial.